Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, David here, and welcome back to another video. And of course, today I'm excited because we're gonna talk Persona, we're gonna talk Persona 6, and I think it's fair to say that Atlus in 2024 has been amazing. Like, we've seen so many good games from them, from Persona 3 Reload to Unicorn Overlord, Vanillaware's latest hit. Freaking SMT5 finally releasing on multi-platform with Vengeance, which is overall considered the complete edition and best version of SMT5. And of course, you end the year with none other than Metaphor ReFantazio, which I'm still playing. Most people seem to be in agreement as well that this game is peak, but it's still fun to speculate on what's gonna happen next. And speaking of, I made a video earlier last week talking about my predictions for what's next for Atlus. I went over everything that you guys like to speculate on, so old ports, remakes, Etrian Odyssey, Persona, SMT, Metaphor, and more. So make sure you click the link in the video description and check that video out. It's long and I predicted a bunch of stuff. But today I want to focus on the big one, Persona 6. I have a feeling that Atlus could reveal Persona 6 very soon, and let's find out why. So the first thing that I want us to look at today is the time between main Persona releases, just to get an idea of what is the track record for the Persona team to pump out these games at Atlus. I'm going to drop Japanese release dates because of course nowadays we are lucky enough to have global launches and global releases for all Sega and Atlus titles. It used to be very different. So all the games in all the mainline games in the Persona series that aren't remasters or remakes have different releases from Japan to the West. So I'm looking at Japanese release dates, so the original game, right, before localization. So Persona 3, the original, came out in July of 2006. Persona 3 FES came out in April of 2007. Persona 4 came out in July of 2008. And Persona 4 Golden came out in June of 2012. So let's pause here for a little second. So Persona 3, the original, July of 2006. A year later, well, under a year later, you have FES. Very good. A year after, you have Persona 4, which again, they were pumping out these releases on PS2 with a lot of reused models and assets and same engine and everything, but still, mainline, complete experiences that fans love. Very close releases from one to another. But then after P4 came out, you had to wait 4 years for Persona 4 Golden to release. Now, if you know the history of Atlus, those were rough years for the company. They weren't doing so well. So that's possibly how you explain the 4-year gap between the original Persona 4 to Persona 4 Golden. The other big gap is a gap that we all know, especially if you were there, like me, waiting for Persona 5. It took 4 years for Persona 5 to come out. It was announced in 2013, a year after Golden released, but it finally released to the public in Japan in September of 2016, which is 4 years after, which makes Persona 5 the biggest gap from a mainline game to another. Persona 5 Royal came out 3 years after as a enhanced re-release of Persona 5 in October of 2019. So you can see that they used to be very fast with these games, but it was hard to transition from HD development. The Persona team, Hashina, Wada, they all talked about this before, saying that, hey, it was hard at Atlus to do HD game development. It's kind of the reason why we got Catherine in the first place, which was a new IP that came out in 2011 or 2011 if I'm not mistaken, on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Persona 5 took a long time because it was their transition at the Persona team from standard definition development to HD development. They were explicit and clear about that. So what's going on? I mean, Persona 5 released 8 years ago, and we have no Persona 6. Persona 5 Royal came out in 2019, so it's been 4 years since the last re-release, which makes Persona 6 the biggest gap between releases. And that's interesting because now there's no HD development, there's no nothing. I think the big thing to take into consideration to explain this gap is the success of Persona. Things really changed when Persona 5 released. Well, it used to be Atlus's biggest game ever. Is it still is? It probably is, but Metaphor seems to be doing insanely well, so we'll see what that's going to do. I'll be covering that when we have sales updates on Metaphor. But when it comes to Persona 5, biggest hit ever, which means that Atlus dropped a ton of spin-off, which I know they did a few for other Persona games, but Persona 5, you don't beat that. You have Persona 5 The Phantom X, you have Persona 5 Strikers, Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight, Persona 5 Tactica, Royal as a re-release if that counts, the remastered version of Royal on multi-platform. So you have so many games in the Persona 5 catalog that they're taking their time for Persona 6 because they're milking that bad boy. That's what they're doing here with Persona 5. Now, we even got a remake of Persona 3 in the meanwhile as well, which if you look at all the dates that we covered beforehand, we didn't get that many games in the Persona universe before in between mainline games. So this isn't new. I am pretty sure that Persona 6 is going to release next year, or that it's going to be revealed very soon. And by very soon, I mean late 2024 or early 2025. I think 2025 is going to be the year of Persona 6. And I said that in my predictions video last week, but I am reiterating and backing up that once again. I think it's going to happen. And that's regardless of leaks and rumors. I want to look at facts here in today's video. So no leaks, no rumors. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Keighley's Game Awards, December. Before I do, thank you so much for staying here with me during this video recording. If you enjoyed the content, a thumbs up helps. Otherwise, if you want weekly RPG and Atlus content, please consider subscribing. So, Atlus at Keighley show. So Jeff Keighley, he's the host of the Game Awards, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, gaming events now that E3 is dead. He's also the host of Gamescom in August and Summer Games Fest in June, which is basically your E3 equivalent, although I don't really like to call it that because in my opinion it's not as exciting. But hey, Atlus, they keep increasing their presence at Keighley shows nowadays, especially 2024, and the Game Awards is in December of this year. So I'm kind of looking at the Game Awards late this year as a potential place where Atlus could very well reveal Persona 6, and for now, it's my prediction. I'm kind of really thinking that Atlus is going to show up and reveal Persona 6 at the Game Awards, and let's see why. So in 2021, that is one of the last recent / modern-ish times that I can remember Atlus showing up at the Game Awards or Summer Games Fest. So in 2021, it was the Persona 25th anniversary. Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, the remastered version of the game, was revealed during the Game Awards, during the pre-show for the Game Awards, and it was the big announcement for the pre-show. Which, again, not even the main show, and you have Persona in the pre-show. Those shows are big in terms of reveals. 2022, we had a Soul Hackers 2 trailer at Summer Games Fest, which, if I recall correctly, that would be the first edition of Summer Games Fest. That's what they had. 2023 was a little slower for Atlus. It was a slower year in terms of releases, mostly remasters and ports and all of that. They had nothing at Keighley shows, which has to be considered. Nothing last year. Interesting. But this year we went at Gamescom and Summer Games Fest. We saw these events, we streamed these events on the channel, and Atlus showed up. Summer Games Fest is the most important one. I want to talk about that. So you know that after SMT5 Vengeance came out in June, which is when Summer Games Fest took place, Atlus was hardcore pushing Metaphor, and hey, it worked. It worked. The game's doing well. And one of the things that they did is they had Hashino, the producer of Metaphor, physically on stage at Summer Games Fest to talk about Metaphor, ReFantazio. That is a new thing for Atlus to do, to bring your devs here in the West to market a game, especially at a Western event like Summer Games Fest, like a Keighley show. So that was a new thing, and to me, that really proves that, hey, our baby Metaphor that we're pushing so hard, that we know deserves all the love and attention in the world because they did this huge marketing campaign for it. Again, preview events, PR boxes to influencers, so many campaigns on social medias, and all these presents at shows like Gamescom and Summer Games Fest. They were really pushing it. So they see the importance of Summer Games Fest and shows like the Game Awards. These shows, they have so many eyes on them. Whether you like them or not, they're extremely popular. So in terms of advertisement and marketing, it's a great place to push your game. So they had Hashino on stage to talk about Metaphor. Persona 3 Reload episode Aegis was at Gamescom. That's where they revealed that Joker would be a fight in the DLC. We had a new trailer for the DLC at Gamescom, which is the smallest show that Keighley has. So now you're like, hey, there's 3 Keighley shows in 2024. There's Summer Games Fest, where Metaphor made a big impact, huge presence. Joker in Reload at Gamescom, which is the smallest announcement at Atlus in these shows, but also the smallest show. And then you have the Game Awards. Atlus, we don't know what's next for them. We have no idea what is their next game release. Is it going to be a port, a remaster, a remake, a new game, a new IP, we have no clue. Obviously, I'm throwing random darts at a board here, but hey, I am thinking that Persona 6 at the Game Awards, the biggest Keighley show, you put your biggest IP there, it makes so much sense. And another thing that needs to be mentioned is, you guys, 2024 for Atlus, amazing year. Huge momentum for Atlus right now. Everyone is praising Atlus on social medias because, hey, Reload broke sales records, critical success. Unicorn Overlord broke records for Vanillaware, critical success. Vengeance sold extremely well, critical success. Metaphor, one of their best rated games of all time, one of their best selling games of all time already. The momentum behind the name Atlus works. Obviously, your Atlus, your biggest IP is Persona. You want to push it as hard as possible. Bring Persona 6 to the biggest show of 2024, being the Game Awards in December. You have momentum, you have eyes on yourself because we don't know what's next for Atlus, and you have millions of eyes because it's the Game Awards. It makes all the sense in the world to me, but what do you guys think? Persona 6, is it going to be announced very soon, like at the Game Awards-ish, or is it going to be early 2025 when we see a new Nintendo system, when we see a Sony State of Play, when we see an Xbox show or something along those lines? Where and when is Atlus going to reveal Persona 6? For now, my bet is on the Game Awards, but people call me the dumbass with actual expectations for a reason. So I might be wrong, but hey, it's fun to speculate. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a good day. And again, appreciate your support. Bye.